no capacity. The town I grew up in had a small facility that maybe could run between 5 and 10 kids could maybe go into that place. Most kids were raised by a stay-at-home mom where I grew up. But some of the other towns now, I mean, as people are looking to be working, capacity is the #1 problem. And when I look at the way that this program has been rolled out, the way that the federal government has put money to the provinces, it's definitely put an overemphasis on creating spaces in the larger cities, the larger centers, and in typical Liberal government fashion, it looks like rural Saskatchewan once again has lost out and has definitely been left behind. So
before the honourable member starts his next sentence, I'll just interrupt here. The honourable member will have 18 minutes and 13 seconds the next time this matter is before the House. Statements by members, déclaration de député. L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Vancouver Granville.
Madam Speaker, seniors are at the heart of our communities. Since we were first elected, seniors have been central to our work in government, and in Vancouver Granville, I've established a local seniors council to advise me on their priorities. As part of Budget 2024 consultations, the Vancouver Granville Seniors Council shared their issues that were important to them that they would like addressed. From affordability to homelessness to social inclusion, these are issues all Canadians face, and I've shared their issues with the Minister of Finance. I want to thank my Seniors Council for their hard work and dedication and let them know that everyone in the House hears them and that we are taking concrete steps, like building over 40,000 homes in Vancouver and launching the Canada Dental Plan to ensure that seniors and every Canadian have the tools and supports they need to live well. I look forward to continuing to work with them on their shared priorities. As they have given so much back to Canada, it's our obligation to make sure we take care of our seniors from coast to coast to coast. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Thank you, Madam Speaker. For 75 years, the Côte de Frontenac paper has been writing for members in my riding and elsewhere. It is a local newspaper that was created by Louis-Philippe Poulin and has remained within his family for years. They have benefited from the support of their subscribers for many years, and since 1977, they have been under the same editor, and Mr. Poulin always proved to be objective and reflected the values of Frontenac that you can still see in the newspaper today. Both young and old have access to quality content that is accessible to the population. I would like to underscore the work of Ms. Suzanne Poulin and all the employees of the newspaper that allow them to spread information in my area. They are an essential part of our community. Happy anniversary.
For New Westminster, Burnaby.
Bill C-273 passed by a vote of 209 to 115 this week for second reading in Parliament. And I thank all those MPs that spoke up for this bill and for the repeal of Section 43 of the Criminal Code. Canada is finally taking the first steps in joining 65 other countries around the world that have banned the use of force against children. More than 700 organizations across Canada, including every major organization that works for children's health and well-being, have called for the repeal of this legalized use of force against children. The repeal of this provision of the Criminal Code was one of the first recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Call to action number 6 of the TRC calls for repeal of the provision that legalizes the use of force against children. This provision was put in place in 1892 when all kinds of abuses were legal. It's high time to change that and time to repeal Section 43.
The honourable member for Kitchener South Hespeler.
Madam Speaker, on February 3rd, we welcomed the Prime Minister to the Waterloo region and the SDG Idea Factory, a hub dedicated to advancing the UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Located in Kitchener, it unites visionary entrepreneurs and organizations to address pressing global challenges. The Idea Factory is more than an innovation space. It's a catalyst for social and environmental transformation. In supporting startups and businesses champion social equity and environmental stewardship, this hub is working to foster global positive change and a better future for all. The Idea Factory is host to businesses and organizations like Liftoff, the Waterloo Region Community Foundation, For Us Girls Foundation, KW Oktoberfest, the Waterloo Region Small Business Center, Mott Mind, Bring on the Sunshine, and the Community Company to drive transformative change. We're immensely proud of the incredible work happening in our community and anticipate future contribution from these inventive minds. The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Arrive Scam, a failed app that should have cost $80,000 but cost Canadians $60 million. GC Strategies, the two middlemen working out of their basement, getting $258 million in IT contracts and never did a keystroke of IT work. Turns out they've been wining and dining senior Liberal government officials. Another $150 million embezzled at the Prime Minister's billion-dollar green slush fund, with hand-picked NDP Liberal board members funneling millions to their own companies. The Prime Minister is not worth the cost and not worth the corruption, but there's hope yet. Conservatives are going to end the corruption, axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Our common sense plan will axe the tax on everything, for everyone, for good. We'll tie municipal funding to housing to make sure more houses get built, not bureaucracy. Conservatives will find savings by scrapping Arrive Can. We'll bring jail, not bail. For Canadians, Madam Speaker, we're going to bring it home.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Oakville North, Burlington.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We know we have a housing crisis, and that's why we're investing in the creation of homes nationwide, including in Oakville and Burlington. In 2023, we announced over $55 million to build 131 purpose-built rental homes in Oakville, with the funding coming as a fully repayable low-interest loan through the CMHC Apartment Construction Loan Program. And last month in Burlington, we announced that the City of Burlington would be receiving $21 million from the Housing Accelerator Fund, which will create 600 homes in the next 3 years and 5,000 new homes over the next decade. This is a step in the right direction for Oakville and Burlington, because we know that every Canadian should have access to safe, affordable housing. We're working with developers and municipalities to get more homes built at prices that people can afford. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable member for Windsor-Tecumseh.
Madam Speaker, my community of Windsor-Tecumseh has a proud history of fighting for workers. Last week, I joined Unifor workers in solidarity on the picket line at Jameson Vitamins, fighting for what is fair. And this week, ATU Local 616 fought and won better wages for Transit Windsor workers. Thank you for defending your right to 10 paid sick days that our federal government introduced. This follows hard-fought wins by Windsor salt workers who stayed strong in their 192-day strike, and the hard-fought historic contracts bargained by Unifor for auto workers. Unions fight for workers, but they lift our entire community. I was proud to work with unions to deliver the battery plant that will create 2,500 good-paying jobs for back home. And I'm proud to work with unions to deliver programs that make real differences for workers, like childcare, like dental care, like the Canada Worker Benefit. Conservatives want to cut programs that help workers, Madam Speaker. We'll continue to fight for workers.
The honourable member for Dauphin, Swan River, Nippewa.
Madam Speaker, after 8 years, rural Canadians are breaking under this NDP Liberal government. This Prime Minister and his radical Environment Minister have launched an attack on rural Canadians. Rural Canadians rely on their vehicles to raise their families and drive to work. Yet this week, the Environment Minister publicly announced that the Liberals will stop building new roads and highways. The Minister stated, and I quote, "Our government has made the decision to stop investing in new road infrastructure," end quote. Rural Canadians don't have the option to take a subway to work or to the doctor's office. They rely on highways and roads. But this NDP Liberal government doesn't care about rural Canadians. That's why this Prime Minister is increasing his failed carbon tax by 23% on April 1st. It's clear he is not worth the cost. Rural Canadians can't afford this government's plan to quadruple the carbon tax. Only Conservatives will fight for rural Canadians and axe the carbon tax.
The honourable member for Mississauga, Erin Mills.
Madam Speaker, I encourage all members in this House to get with the program. That's the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program, a collaboration between local community organizations and the Canada Revenue Agency to deliver free tax clinics for Canadians. This collaboration between the CRA and dedicated volunteers across Canada allows us to give back to communities by helping residents to file their taxes. Local organizations across the country run these tax clinics for lower-income Canadians to help make sure that they are getting their benefits, like the Canada Child Benefit, the Canada Workers Benefit, Canada Carbon Rebate, and many more cost of living measures that they may be eligible for. I am so proud of the positive impact that we have made through the CVITP and look forward to repeating this success again in what will be a productive tax filing season this year. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Portage-Lisgar.
After 8 years of this Prime Minister, it's never been more expensive to feed your family, own a home, and heat your house. The price of everything is up, and the average family of 4 will spend an additional $700 this year on groceries compared to last. And now the Prime Minister is hiking the carbon tax by 23% on April 1st. But he's not done there. He's also jacking up the tax on beer, wine, and spirits by 5% for good measure. Now, I don't know if this Prime Minister learned basic reasoning, so let me explain. If you tax the farmer that grows the food, the trucker who ships the food, you tax all who buy the food. So, what's the result? 2 million Canadians now rely on a food bank, and 50% are $200 away from insolvency. Yet the Liberals think rebranding the carbon tax will stop the financial pain. Newsflash, it won't. Canadians live in reality. They know the carbon tax is a tax plan, not an environment plan. Only common sense Conservatives will axe the tax on everything, for everyone, and for good.
Hear, hear. Well done.
Honourable member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Madam Speaker, after 8 years of this NDP Liberal government, the lives of renters, mortgage holders, and the unhoused continue to worsen with crushing costs. The facts speak for themselves. Home prices now outpace incomes by 40%, earning Canada the worst record in the G7. While American rents fall, Canadian rents hit record highs. Canada built fewer homes in 2022 than in 1972, and housing starts were down in 2023. We now have the fewest homes per capita of any country in the G7, despite having the most land to build on. Ottawa-funded gatekeepers and punitive taxes add hundreds of thousands of dollars of unneeded costs to the construction of each home. Canada's infrastructure funding should be tied to actually building homes. On top of this, we now hear the radical environment minister doesn't even want to build new roads. Our common sense Conservative plan will ensure infrastructure dollars go to the municipalities that get their bureaucracies out of the way to build homes, not bureaucracy.
The honourable member for Argenteuil-La-Petite-Nation. Thank you, Madam Speaker. As you know, in this House, you know how passionate I am by music and singing, and it's with great pleasure that I learned that a young firefighter from La Chute in my riding, Gabrielle Fredette, is one of the young talents selected to take part in The Voice Quebec. In fact, he had the honor of seeing 4 coaches turn around their chairs and asking them to join their teams. And in the end, one of my idols, Mario Pelchat, he chose for a specific reason. His grandfather, who died in 2020, was a great fan of Mr. Pelchat. Gabriel inherited his guitar from his grandfather, Leopold Dumochel, and as a musician, he began playing the guitar and composing music during the pandemic. So what a journey for this young, talented man. And I'm proud to support artists in my writing. Gabrielle, I wish you every success and a wonderful musical career.
The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today during Sexual and Reproductive Health Awareness Week to emphasize the importance of menstrual equity, access to contraception, and abortion rights for Canadian women and gender-diverse people. I'm happy to see my colleagues join me in celebrating the critical gains made by Canada's feminist movement in its fight for women's sexual and reproductive rights. But we cannot forget that there is still work to be done. It has now been over 2 weeks since Fredericton's only abortion clinic closed, and this government has done nothing. The Liberals pat themselves on the back for supporting gender equality, but refuse to ensure access to safe abortion, while the Conservatives are actively undermining this right through backdoor legislation. The human right to a safe, trauma-informed abortion care is only as good as the ability to access that right. Leaders must uphold the Canada Health Act